Thanks for coming out and watching the oxymoronic Reddit Professional Show, where I showcase the best and worst of the internet. Here I comment on brilliant and hilarious comment chains regarding dumb shit on the internet for you to enjoy. Make sure to subscribe, hit the little bell button so that you get notifications every time we come up with a new video. Enjoy this week's show.
TransUnion burying their credit freeze to sell their own credit monitoring product TruIdentity. I'm not sure where to post this, but noticed something had changed on the TransUnion website about freezing credit this morning when I was giving links to family so they could freeze theirs. I froze my credit the day after news about the Equifax breach broke, and it looks like TransUnion has since changed their site to push people away from freezing their credit in favor for their own product called TruIdentity, like what Equifax was doing with their trusty DID Premier. If you want to place a credit freeze with TransUnion now, you have to get through a page of info about credit and fraud, and then the action it tells you to take is to lock your credit information by enrolling in TruIdentity. The option to freeze your credit is under About Credit Freeze, deliberately passive in their use of language. The description about credit freezing is dissuasive. A credit freeze may be available under your state law. This is such a blatant attempt by TransUnion to take advantage of the Equifax breach for their own financial gain. It's a shitty thing for TransUnion to do, and people should be aware that they are being led away from putting an actual credit freeze on their account. Exploiting people and holding their finances hostage is exactly what all three credit agencies have always done. Have a landlord that wants to claim non-existent damages. He reports you when you refuse to pay, and now it's on you to prove otherwise. And you better, because good luck getting any sort of decent interest rate on a loan in the future if you don't. Of course, you can always pay them an extra $20 a month for easy access to your history and for placing disputes. The credit agencies have always been nothing but a hustle to push corporate control over private individuals. The credit agencies have always been nothing but a hustle to push corporate control over private individuals. Especially now with this where some employers want to know your credit score before giving you a job. In my opinion, this isn't an issue of being cheap. A major credit company with billions of dollars, allowed almost every American's sensitive, personal information to be leaked, and not only that, took their sweet time telling us while they sold off company stock in an attempt to save their own financial security. Why we aren't in the streets calling for the resignation of all executives and financial/security staff is beyond me, but at the very least we should be furious at the notion of having to pony up the cash to fix their mistake for them. Fuck that. I was just talking to someone about this, and I think it's mainly because most people aren't even aware that something happened. And it's likely if they did hear about it, they'd just write it off as some other company that got hacked. I doubt most people could tell you the name of any of the three credit bureaus. Why this type of shit isn't taught in school I will never understand. The credit bureaus have collected information without consumers' direct permission and are refusing to protect it unless given $16.95 a month. Blackmailing with browser history or compromising pictures pale in comparison to what the credit bureaus are now doing. Even the mob doesn't have it this easy. Consumers had better play along, or else their ability to participate in modern society will be crippled. Equifax stands to make a lot of money selling monitoring for information they failed to protect. Charging $5-15 to lock accounts will net them up to $3.0 billion. Equifax also charges to unlock and lock it again. If consumers are willing to sign all their rights away, Equifax will give consumers a year of security monitoring with no promise to fix your credit if it is impacted. If you actually want protection, it's $16.95 a month. That's a potential of billions of dollars a month to protect something collected without your direct permission and then lost. This seems so close to blackmail it is mind-boggling. On Equifax's word, you could be prevented from getting a job, having credit cards, buying a house or car. 150 million people are now completely exposed. Moving forward, everyone will require credit monitoring, which really is just the credit bureaus expanding their reach into consumers' pockets. Even worse, credit monitoring isn't a guarantee of anything. Most products only promise to tell you have been compromised. You still have to go through the pain and fixing it with the small hope you can fight them to have expenses reimbursed. At least the mob offers some actual protection from your shop being burnt down or robbed. Credit monitoring doesn't even do that. Although, you will get a text on your phone at some point after the fire begins. Meanwhile, Equifax will go from a measly gross profit of $3.1 billion last year to the potential of $2 to $5 billion a month. How could they resist not leaking your information for returns like that? Congrats Equifax, you just turned credit monitoring into a massive growth industry, and all it took was gross negligence. And just like the mob, they didn't burn your shop down, they just can't stop it, unless of course, you pay $16.95 a month. This whole thing is very eye-opening. Banks seemed like a kind of necessary evil that I didn't quite trust, but had enough of my best interest in mind to be worthwhile. Credit agencies, I never thought I had to worry about whether or not to trust. That's our identities. Our financial rock. I've busted my ass repairing my credit, finally have decent scores, and it could all just get f***ed up because of someone else's error, or deliberate corruption. As someone just out of college, I really don't need this stress of identity theft. It's ridiculous. Right with you on that. Unacceptable. Although dealing with identity theft doesn't cost you money. It costs you a lot of time. Sometimes time is money too. I was a victim of identity theft 16 years ago. Someone was trying to buy a car with my identity in another state. Luckily, the dealership felt something wasn't right and called my number to verify. That's how I found out my identity was stolen. They never got the car loan, but a few other credit cards were taken out in my name. And a few other inquiries. It took me a year to clean up everything from my credit. Had to file police report. Send copies to each bureau and had to dispute in writing anything that wasn't mine. It was a bitch. Not fun, and many hours of my life I will never get back. I used to work for a top automotive credit lender here in the US. Had a situation similar to yours where the customer's credit had an active fraud alert on it. Called the hashtag and left a message. The credit manager for the territory wanted to ignore it and move forward. I got a call back from the fraud alert and they confirmed they did not want the purchase. They wanted to know who was doing this, as it wasn't the first time and she had been fighting identity theft for a long time. The manager wanted me to hang up on her and walk away from it. He was worried that sharing info about the applicant would be a violation of consumer privacy and that we'd be liable. I ignored him and, while I gave her no information about the dealership or any of the personal information from the application, I did advise what city and state I was working under, which was far from where she was. I advised that given who I was calling from and how many dealers would do business with us, that it would narrow down our search. Essentially left only one dealership even a possibility. Fast forward a month ahead and found out from the car dealer that not only did I help stop a fraudulent transaction, but the identity thief got caught and was arrested and was presumably pending trial for ID theft and with real jail time possibility. Not a decision I look back on with regret. Sorry you got hit as well. The situation I was involved in happened just a few years before yours, but the time frame matched up with the tail end of my career with that employer and made me recall the story. I was able to freeze my credit online with Equifax and Innovis yesterday. Experian refused, saying I had to get a police report and sent it via mail with my $11 fee. TransUnion website seemed to work until I tried to pay, where it said the service was unavailable. Police here, we hate this policy. We get called to countless people's houses for police reports because the credit bureau/bank demands them. And for what? A report which solely consists of the information provided to us by the complainant. Nothing more. But somehow it legitimizes your claim in their eyes. No crime is getting solved, no one's going to jail, and there is, in most cases, absolutely nothing we can do to help the situation except give you a pamphlet redirecting you back to the same credit bureaus that got you into this mess. It's insanity. You're not freezing your credit for fun, you're doing it because something is seriously wrong. That should be the end of the conversation with them. But I digress. Honestly, I don't really understand the point of credit companies like this to begin with. It all seems rather fishy that someone can make money simply by telling other people whether or not you pay your bills. They are holding rents on your ability to make regular payments. But really, shouldn't your credit card company, or your landlord, or whoever actually be able to do this, for free? The problem is there's no way for us to have a centralized, does this person pay their bills so I know if they're a risk to give money/rent to them or not, without companies like these. You'd have thousands of yes or no answers to that question from every single institution that you've ever done business with if there wasn't a centralized system in place making actually getting anything you'd need credit for a horrible hassle and require massive down payments like you had a 500 score now. The problem comes in because money is involved, and money makes everything a hassle because everyone wants to make a profit. As the age-old, absolute power corrupts absolutely, continues to hold true, these companies have so much power over us that they take advantage of that to be as horrible as possible and know we have no other choice but to just deal with it. That's what makes this whole situation so bad. If they were properly regulated and had actual standards they had to follow, we wouldn't be in this mess. Instead, they were allowed to run this however they wanted, and as more and more comes out, it becomes increasingly clear that letting the fox run the hen house is, as usual, never a good option. Either these companies need to have a bunch of regulations and standards quickly dropped onto their heads that they are now required to follow, or they need to be dissolved and we have a new company that has proper regulations and standards put into place to avoid this type of people's info was compromised. Let's just make even more money off them. I'm really annoyed the government hasn't stepped in and effectively told them, make good with people or else. All 3 agencies should be required to freeze and unfreeze accounts for free, indefinitely. Equifax should be required right off to give free credit monitoring for life. I think it should also be made clear by the government that if Equifax doesn't prove beyond reasonable doubt that they have secured their data in a far more advanced way, hey guys, we patched that exploit, all good, wouldn't be enough, then they will have their corporate charter pulled and all data has to be destroyed and assets sold off. I got hit with identity theft a couple years back, but was lucky enough to catch it early. It still took about a month of my life to try to understand what happened and how to clean up the mess. At the end of it, I had a locked mailbox and credit freezes placed on all 3 bureaus. To this day, I can not understand how a business could collect information about me without my permission and not notify me they were doing it. Represent that collected information about me to other parties for the purpose of issuing debt. Require that I pay them to stop doing it. What a business model. Can somebody explain to me the benefit of freezing credit or getting one of these services for a short period of time? 1 year. My understanding is now that we know that SSNs were included in the hack, people could be the victim of identity theft/fraud because of this for the rest of their lives. People wanting to be malicious could hold onto this information for a very long time and it'll still be relevant. It's good practice to keep your credit frozen, regardless of whether or not you think your information has been leaked. 99% of the time you don't need the credit bureaus to allow your credit to be pulled. For the 1% of the time when you do need your credit to be available, it's easy enough to lift the freeze. Now that most Americans' SSNs are leaked to the black market, it's more likely that an identity thief will try to open credit in your name. If your credit is frozen when they try, then they fail. Keeping your credit frozen 99% of the time means that they'll fail 99% of the time. I like those odds. Credit monitoring is literally the most pointless shit ever. They typically notify you 2 months after the line of credit has been opened. I get panicked calls from customers who opened credit cards or other lines of credit 2 months prior and then call up freaking out because they got a credit monitoring alert and swear that they've been hacked. You'll get past due notices and collection calls long before any of these stupid credit monitoring services ever lets you know about a problem.
If you enjoyed this week's effective way to waste time, hit that like button and subscribe for more content like this. If you are enjoying the series, leave me a comment below. A special shout out to the content creators. You frickin' rock.